One day, a girl named Mattie Ross was seen arriving in a town to take care of her father's body. When she arrived at the morgue, Mattie asked her mother's servant to take her father's body home so that it could be buried at home while she would remain here looking for her father's killer named Tom. However, due to lack of money, Mattie was forced to stay at the morgue. The morgue guard didn't mind Mattie staying here as long as Mattie was brave enough to sleep with 3 criminals who were about to be executed. Hearing that, Mattie was shocked, and afterward, she went to the place where the execution was carried out.
Seaman out there in that crowd is...
After the criminals were executed, Mattie met with the sheriff in town and asked about her father's murder case. Unfortunately, the sheriff could only say that the police were currently short-staffed. In addition, according to the list of fugitives, Tom's name was at the bottom of the list, which meant that Mattie's father's case would also be dealt with later. Hearing the sheriff's words, Mattie was truly disappointed, and seeing her disappointment, the sheriff then suggested that Mattie meet a cowboy named Cogburn to help her catch Tom. Cogburn was one of the most famous fugitive hunter cowboys in the city, where he had decades of experience hunting many fugitives and solving cases. In fact, he was so famous that the community gave him the nickname, the fiercest cowboy. After finding out where Cogburn was, Mattie innocently went straight to meet him at the public toilet. Mattie told him that she really needed Cogburn's services to catch a fugitive named Tom, but because he was busy relieving himself, Cogburn got angry and chased her away. That night, after being rejected by Cogburn, Mattie chose to spend the night at the morgue with the 3 bodies of criminals who had been executed that afternoon. The next day, Mattie went to collect a debt from her father's former business partner, and also demanded compensation for Tom running away with her father's horse. Mattie knew that Stone used to be Tom's boss, so Stone was automatically responsible for his employee's actions. Upon hearing this, he denied that Tom was no longer his employee, so he was not responsible for anything. Mattie refused to give up and threatened to take him to court if Stone still refused to pay the debt and compensation. In the end, after losing the argument, Stone was forced to comply with her demands. After negotiating and getting the money, Mattie decided to stay at the hotel where her father used to stay. There, Mattie was very sad when she saw her father's old belongings. The next day, Mattie went to court to meet Cogburn again, and when she arrived at the courtroom, it turned out that Cogburn was being tried by the prosecutors for the murder case he had committed. But no matter what, Cogburn was still the #1 cowboy in the city, and he easily won the trial. After the trial was over, Mattie hurriedly found Cogburn, and this time she offered him a deal. She wanted to officially hire Cogburn's services and offered him $50 if he succeeded in capturing Tom. However, Cogburn refused again because he didn't believe that a little kid like Mattie had that much money. In the morning, when Mattie just woke up, she was surprised to see a man sitting waiting for her to wake up. When asked, the man introduced himself as LaBeouf, a member of the Texas Rangers or Cowboys who hunt fugitives in the city of Texas. LaBeouf is currently being tasked with capturing Tom for killing an official in the Texas region. And because Mattie's father had just been a victim of Tom's murder, LaBeouf came here to find out information about Tom's last seen location. LaBeouf has been chasing Tom for a long time, but until now he is still having trouble. Hearing LaBeouf's story, instead of helping to inform Tom so that he could be caught quickly, Mattie instead belittled the Texas cowboy by saying that from now on LaBeouf no longer needed to bother catching Tom because she and Cogburn would be the ones to catch him. Seeing that arrogance, LaBeouf tried to be patient, and then he asked for cooperation. But his offer was immediately rejected outright because Mattie didn't want Tom to be caught and would be taken to Texas while she wanted Tom to be tried in the city. Hearing that, LaBeouf, annoyed, finally left from there. Not long after, Mattie went to a farm to buy a horse, and while choosing, she saw a beautiful black horse. She then bought the horse and named it Little Blackie. After buying the horse, Mattie went to where Cogburn lived, and her arrival made Cogburn very surprised because he didn't expect that Mattie would really want to hire his services to catch Tom. In the end, seeing Mattie's sincerity, Cogburn agreed, and he then told her to come back tomorrow at 7 in the morning. The next day, as agreed, Mattie arrived promptly at 7 in the morning, but she was confused as to why she couldn't see Cogburn anywhere. The owner then handed her a letter stating that Cogburn would arrest Tom alone without Mattie's help. Cogburn also left a train ticket for Mattie to wait for her home. Reading the letter, Mattie was very upset and immediately left to catch up with Cogburn, who had not yet traveled far. When she arrived at the riverbank, Mattie saw Cogburn walking with LaBeouf in the distance. Cogburn, who had guessed that Mattie would follow them, ordered the river guard to take Mattie to the police station so she could be sent back to her hometown. But because Mattie was naturally stubborn, she forced herself to cross the river.
Go, little
After successfully crossing the river, Mattie immediately accused Cogburn of running away with her money. Furthermore, now that he was with LaBeouf, it was certain that they were both working together to trick her. Cogburn denied it, saying he just didn't want a child as young as Mattie to participate in this dangerous job. And even though Cogburn had explained it, Mattie still kept on babbling. Finally, LaBeouf, who couldn't stand Mattie's behavior anymore, was annoyed and hit Mattie to keep her quiet. Seeing Mattie being beaten, Cogburn felt sorry for her and stopped LaBeouf. Late at night while resting, Cogburn and LaBeouf argued over trivial matters until they ended up insulting each other, and when the situation escalated, Mattie tried to calm things down by changing the subject. In the morning, as they prepared to leave, Mattie asked why Cogburn had invited LaBeouf to join them, and Cogburn explained that LaBeouf had also hired his services to capture Tom. Hearing this, Mattie became angry and said she would not accept Tom being taken to Texas. In the midst of the argument, LaBeouf appears and again mocks Cogburn for being a subordinate to a child. The two of them exchange insults until Cogburn can no longer stand LaBeouf's words. He then cancels the deal with him and throws him out. Now it's just Cogburn and Mattie, and they continue their journey. On the way, Cogburn stopped at a shop to ask if Tom had ever passed through there. After asking, Cogburn learned that a fugitive named Ned, whom Cogburn had been looking for, had bought something there. Strangely, Ned used Mattie's father's gold coin, which made Cogburn believe that Ned must have something to do with Tom. Hearing this information, Mattie was happy because she felt she would soon find Tom, and afterward the two of them continued their journey, following the direction where the fugitives had gone. As night fell, they arrived at a suspicious house, and when called, the occupant of the house actually kicked them out without wanting to come out. Cogburn, who felt suspicious, ordered Mattie to close the chimney on the roof of the house, and when the chimney was closed, the smoke from the fireplace filled the house, causing the occupant to react. It turned out that in the house there were two fugitive criminals, and after being convinced that Cogburn did not intend to catch them, Cogburn and Mattie were allowed to enter. Inside the house, Cogburn suspects that they both know Ned and Tom well. Cogburn then offers a deal: if they tell him where Tom is, he will provide medical assistance to treat one of the fugitives who has a gunshot wound to the leg. Unable to bear the pain any longer, one of them is forced to tell him that Ned and his men are planning to stay at the house in a few hours, but his friend forbids him from telling him, which leads to a fight between the two. Based on the information they had gathered, Mattie and Cogburn waited outside the house to ambush Ned. While they were waiting, they were shocked to see LaBeouf coming to the house, and when they told LaBeouf to hide, Ned and his men had already arrived and a shootout ensued. The next day, the journey continued, and throughout the trip, LaBeouf continued to disparage Cogburn, saying that Cogburn was old and could no longer shoot accurately. Hearing this taunt made Cogburn very angry, and he proceeded to demonstrate his marksmanship.
There.
As the rain fell, the three of them set up a tent to rest. That night, Cogburn suddenly announced he wanted to quit because he felt Ned must have told Tom that the bounty hunters were now chasing him, and because of that news, Tom had surely left the city. Hearing Cogburn's words, Mattie tried to encourage him, but it turned out LaBeouf had the same idea and decided to give up as well. The next morning, when Mattie was fetching water from the river, she was shocked to see Tom there. With trembling hands, she immediately grabbed her gun and fired, but unfortunately, Mattie's shot missed. Meanwhile, Cogburn, who heard the gunshot, rushed over to save Mattie. Mattie was then taken hostage, and afterwards she was taken to the top of the hill where Tom and Ned's group was hiding. Ned asked why a child of Mattie's age could be here, and Mattie replied that she came all the way here to catch the person who had killed her father. Ned then planned to use Mattie to trap Cogburn, and he ordered Tom to guard Mattie first, while he and 3 of his men would attack Cogburn. But when Ned left, instead of guarding her, Tom instead strangled and held a knife to Mattie's neck. Luckily, LaBeouf arrived just in time. Actually, LaBeouf had seen Mattie being held hostage, and he secretly followed where Ned's group took Mattie. After making sure Tom was unconscious, they both rushed to save Cogburn.
Kill you in 1 minute, Ned! I call that bold talk! Feel your hand, you son of a bitch!
All of Ned's men were dead, and now only Cogburn and Ned remained. However, Cogburn was in a bad way, pinned under his own horse, and suddenly, Ned eventually died on the spot, but just as things were starting to look safe, Tom suddenly attacked LaBeouf from behind.
Stand up, Tom Chaney!
Mattie fell into a deep pit, and while trying to escape, she was attacked by venomous snakes in the pit. One of the snakes bit Mattie's left hand. Fortunately, Cogburn immediately helped her and rushed her to the nearest doctor.
No, stop!
But until the evening, they still hadn't found a doctor. In the middle of the journey, little Blackie was dying from exhaustion, and Cogburn, who couldn't bear to see little Blackie's condition, was reluctantly forced to shoot him to end little Blackie's suffering. Seeing the horse that had always accompanied her on her journey killed right before her eyes, Mattie was devastated. Even though Mattie knew Cogburn did it so that little Blackie wouldn't suffer, Mattie's heart still ached. With all his might, Cogburn ran carrying Mattie even through the falling snow. He didn't care how cold it was, how exhausted he was, because all he could think about was saving Mattie's life. Eventually, Cogburn made it to the doctor, and after that, Mattie never saw him again. Years passed, and now Mattie had grown up, and as a result of the snake bite, Mattie had lost her left hand. Today, Mattie plans to go see Cogburn in the town where they first met, to see the man who saved her life, whom she hasn't seen in decades. However, upon arriving, one of Cogburn's friends informs her that Cogburn has passed away. Hearing that the hero who saved her life has died, Mattie feels deeply saddened, because to her, Cogburn was not just an ordinary cowboy, but the greatest cowboy she had ever met. And the film ends.